Hello and welcome to your neighborhood show. I'm Carolyn, and the reason I started this podcast is because it actually comes from my own life's journey of growing up in Mumbai, India, in a very strong connected neighborhood where pretty much everyone knew everyone. And then over my 22-year marriage, I inadvertently, here in Australia, I inadvertently got disconnected or isolated rather. And after my marriage breakdown, I was kind of reflecting on my life and wondering, how did I come from that strong community and connectedness, and now when I need support the most, I don't have it. And so I went on this journey of wanting to get myself supported again and build that network of support around me. And in the process of doing that, I realized that there were many others like myself, and it's everywhere. There's disconnection everywhere. And so what the podcast is about drawing out beautiful stories, amazing stories actually, of everyday amazing people from their lives at times when they felt connected as well as disconnected, and to normalize it. But then how do we then move from times when we are disconnected and feel supported again? I've been so lucky to meet some amazing people through this process, and what I've realized is when I'm intentional about getting to know somebody, I can get to know them in 3 to 4 hours. And that's been the biggest blessing for me. Welcome to your neighborhood show. I'm Carolyn, and our amazing, beautiful guest today is Wendy King. Welcome, Wendy.
Thank you, Carolyn. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. You're about to hear some really confronting, raw, sad stories and parts of Wendy's life. So I'm not sure what to say, but it's I look at this woman sitting in front of me today and I just feel anything is possible, even if you've dealt with life, the kind of life that she's had to deal with growing up, because she's just gorgeous when I look at her today, and the things she's doing in her life and her attitude to life is just amazing. So before I waste any more time, we'll get Wendy to start talking. How are you today this morning? I know you've had to wake up early this morning and come here, but did you get a good sleep?
I did.
Yeah?
Yes, I'm excited.
Uh-huh.
I've never done anything like this before. So
Yes.
I'm on the verge of a new adventure, so I think this would be a wonderful way to begin it.
Something new.
Yes, to acknowledge my past and then move forward.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for saying yes to coming here and sharing.
It was
what you're about to share.
very hard to turn you down, Carolyn.
So let's just, like I always do, I always start from people's childhood because that gives people a sense of their background.
Mm-hmm.
I know you've had quite a dysfunctional childhood, but share whatever you feel comfortable sharing with our audience to give them a sense of what it was for you growing up.
Okay. So I was born in Fiji in 1974. I have 3 other siblings. I don't know. It seemed like a fairly normal childhood. Well, to me it was normal, because I didn't know what dysfunctional looked like. But I remember from a very young age that there was alcoholism in the family, especially with regards to my father, and there was a bit of dysfunction around that. So that's been, alcohol addiction has been part of my life from a very young age, from the very beginning. Yeah.
And your siblings, you have 3 other siblings, you said.
Yes.
Where do you sit?
I'm the eldest. Then I have a brother, a sister, and then another brother.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so in Fiji, was this like everybody knew everybody in the village kind of situation? Or?
No, not really. Fiji is quite big for a Pacific Island country, so you just tend to know who your family is and your extended family. That's very important there. And I have a huge extended family. And for the most part, when we were little, we used to go to the village a lot, and that was wonderful. I must say that was an incredible time in my childhood when the family got together, especially in Dad's village. It was a lot of fun, and I felt very, very connected. My aunts and uncles were very kind. My cousins were a lot of fun. We had the river on one side. We had sand dunes. We had the ocean. It was a lot of fun, and there were many of us. So deep connection around extended family. Also on my mum's side, she had 6 sisters, and we had a lot of cousins there too. So a lot of connections around that. My maternal grandmother, she was a real matriarch and held everything together, always at the stove cooking. So there were many, many,
good things as well.
Good things about my childhood.
Look, that's the big thing even in India growing up.
Yeah.
We grew up with a lot of cousins, family, extended friends, and in the neighborhood and stuff. And that's what helps us deal with personal issues when they're happening in the home, because somehow the rest of the community finds out.
Yes.
When everybody kind of knows everyone, and I think is one of the ways that we can kind of cope with dysfunction in the home.
Yes.
Well, how did it pan out for you in terms of your father being an alcoholic?
Well, so it was always good when the extended family was around, and there's always drinking, but
Yeah.
I think there's buffering as well. When you have a lot of people around, there's others to kind of buffer that. But when you step into just your own nuclear family, and the only 2 adults are mum and dad,
Yeah.
and the children, and dad comes home drunk, then the first person that is going to take that out on is the next adult in the house. So that was always, when I think about it now, I remember how terrified I used to be.
And what earliest memory have you got of that? Like, how old were you?
I think my earliest memory would be maybe around 4, I guess. Yeah, around that age.
And were you obviously indirectly impacted a lot?
Yes. Just, the shouting and cowering and mum crying, those things
Are there in your psyche?
come back to me. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And then I didn't mention it before, but around 5 years old, I was sent off to live with my grandmother for a bit.
Oh, that would have been good. Was that good?
Yes, it was. Yeah, I loved that.
Bit of a saving grace.
Yeah,
in a way.
I really loved that. So I lived with her for a couple of years. That's when I started.
Just yourself or your other siblings too?
No, just myself. So mum would have had, my brother then. But maybe I was getting to the age where I was maybe noticing too much and maybe playing up a bit because of it. I don't know why I was sent off. Maybe it was.
And was Fiji like a place where you have lots of parties and stuff where people come over and
very, very social.
Everybody kind of
very
drinks.
social, because there is, they drink kava in Fiji, which kava is a traditional drink.
Local.
It has like sedative kind of qualities, but it's used in traditional ceremonies, but then it is also used to relax after work, and it's really part of connection in Fiji. You sit around a bowl of kava And you can drink that for, a few hours, and then everyone goes to bed nice and sleepy.
Except for the next morning.
It's a relaxant, yes. Yeah.
And
Except
then,
for the next morning. You don't want to abuse it because it can tend to make you lazy.
Yeah. And then you said your dad got a job in the Cook Islands, and you were about 14 around that time?
13, I was around 13, 14, and Dad got a job in the Cook Islands and went there, and myself and my brother went with him first.
Yeah. How was that for you there?
That was challenging, because then now the other adult was taken out of the equation, and my brother and I had to step up and take care of him when he when he went out and got drunk. We kind of had to be the ones to rescue him. And I remember my younger brother driving him home on a scooter, hanging on to him.
Oh, gosh.
While trying to maneuver the scooter down the back road, because he wasn't allowed to be driving a scooter, let alone with a drunk passenger.
So he was underage driving a
Oh,
scooter?
yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
He would have been about 12 or 13.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
Wow.
And Mum would have maybe come. It's too hard for me to remember timelines now, but probably 6 months to a year after that. So we were left with him for a bit, and
so you did all the cooking and stuff while he was at work?
Some of it.
Yeah.
He was a decent cook, but
Okay.
That's
probably where you got your skills from.
Yeah.
You're an amazing cook.
I would think that he inspired me in that aspect.
And
it wasn't all bad. You said he was a lovely guy. A lot of the time, it was just when
he drank. Yeah.
When he drank, he became
And
irresponsible.
that's the thing. Yes.
And then he would bring the party home without thinking. I have a 14-year-old daughter in the house. Bring a bunch of drunk men home who he doesn't even know very well, and that was always quite scary. Yeah,
wow.
Because a couple of times, they did try something.
What do you mean try something? With you?
Yes. Yeah.
As in
come into my room.
Oh my
and God. The first was actually a woman. A woman came into my room and proposed to a 14-year-old a sexual relationship with her and her husband. And I was just dumbfounded. I didn't even know anything about anything. Like, of course I knew about biological sex, but I was like, what? How does this work? And
did you go tell your father, or did you?
No, I didn't. I didn't, because sex was a taboo subject, really,
yes.
And especially between fathers and daughters, it's not discussed, really. So I didn't say anything. I kept that one to myself. Yeah.
My goodness, I'm so sorry.
Yeah. And then on another occasion, I was around the same age, 14, 15. When I woke up in the middle of the night and found a friend of theirs,
in your bed,
next to me, basically, with his hand down my pants. Yeah, that was
oh my God.
That was just so confronting, and I was so frozen in the moment, but somehow I managed to just spring up and bolt out of there. Yeah.
Wow.
And I never told them about that either. And I don't know why. I really don't know why. And they don't know till this day, actually. So, yeah.
Goodness. Have you done any work around it, Wendy?
I have. Yeah,
I've
done a lot of work. A lot of emotional therapy. around that and other things, you know. So
And like, look, in those days, sexual abuse was not even. It happened everywhere. I know in India, it was like you'd walk on a bus and you'd be groped by a man, and nobody did anything about
it's so
it.
commonplace, and
Yeah,
not in those days. I think even more so now.
Correct. And you did at the most you could do
Yeah.
was just give him a kind of push him off like that. I remember
Yeah.
going on our way to college. It used to happen. So it was
Yeah.
not a. I think even as women, we didn't think, we said, this is, you kind of sadly normalize it.
Yes, you do.
And therefore, but today, of course, you'll be behind bars, and
Yeah.
people are aware of the consequences of anyone even slightly, making
That's
a
right.
pass at a woman.
Yeah.
That's not appropriate.
Yeah.
So you were in Cook Islands, and then did you come? You went back to Fiji for a bit. Your
Yes,
granddad,
we moved.
Yeah?
We moved back to Fiji. I mean, life in the Cook Islands. After having said all of that, there was a lot of happiness there
Of course.
too, because it's a beautiful, idyllic place. And as I got older, I got a bit, just a bit more sassy around protecting myself.
Yes.
So
good.
yeah, and then we moved back to Fiji when I was 17. Yeah, we moved back.
And then you met your first partner. Was that
Yes.
around that time?
Yeah,
Yes.
I met him around the time I turned 18. And
Tell us
yeah,
about that.
So he is the father of my first child, Jake. He was a lot older than me, like a good 10 years older than me. Yeah, it was for me, it was a bit of a difficult relationship because his family didn't really like me, or perhaps think I was worthy, or maybe they thought I was just too young for him, and maybe they had other hopes for him than a teen pregnancy. You know what I mean? Yeah, so I had Jake when I was 19 years old, and I really wasn't prepared for it at all. Yeah, I feel like I was still growing up myself.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, I wasn't prepared for it in any way.
And you lived with Jake's family? Did you go on?
Yes, I did. I did end up moving. At first, I was living with my aunt, and they were very supportive.
With Jake, with baby?
With baby, yeah. And then I got asked to move into.
What was that like, living there?
It was difficult because I could
they didn't
feel
like you. That's
that,
right. Yes.
yeah, I wasn't really welcome.
Oh, that's a horrible feeling.
Yes.
You got a newborn baby,
Yes, and even
you don't have support of your own parents.
But even Jake was also, on a couple of occasions, not treated well. Yeah. Like, when his uncle is like pulling his hair as a 1-year-old, like out of spite, it's such a yucky feeling.
That's like totally messed up.
Yeah, it really is. It really is.
Our childhoods are so, it's like foundational years, those 0 to 5.
Yes.
And
you need to be
gosh,
nurtured.
I'm so sorry. And then you've moved quite a bit in your life, different places, and I suppose, but it's also in a way kind of, you become, maybe it's built resilience in you, your whole journey, because I look at you today, Wendy, and I think you're just gorgeous. And the things you do and the way you make me laugh. And but after that, after Fiji, after you had Jake, you were in Fiji after Jake was born for a couple of years before you moved to Sydney, or what happened
I
then?
moved to Melbourne.
You moved to Melbourne, that's right.
Yes. So Jake was about 3 years old when I met an Australian man.
Yeah.
And got into a relationship with him. And then after a couple of years of living together, we moved
So what happened to Jake's father that didn't work out?
It didn't work out because, I mean, he did try, but when I look at it now, I just think we were in different places.
Yeah.
I can't blame him or his family. I just, like I said, I wasn't ready for it. I wasn't ready to settle down.
Yeah.
I was really naive when it came to rearing children.
Of course.
I just thought, oh yeah, well, I've got the family around me. This is what he's done. You have a child, a family can maybe take on some of that, and just so naive. I had no idea what I was doing. Yeah.
Well, your background doesn't, your own childhood forms those opinions.
Yeah.
Well, so.
Yeah. So we moved to Melbourne, and Jake came with me. But after a while,
How old was Jake at that time?
he was around 4. Yeah. And he did not like the move to Australia because, it was the 3 of us. And he was like, where's all the family? There was no family around. This man's
Very
family
different.
was in Adelaide. It was very, very different. He went to kindergarten, but yeah, he just didn't fit in. He didn't like it. So he was
like
with
a fish
me.
out of water.
He was with me for a couple of years, and then when he went for a holiday when he was around 6, his father said, well, I think he would be better off here in Fiji with us. And I was fine with that.
So at 6 years, Jake goes back to Fiji to be with his dad.
Yes.
And then you're still with your Australian partner.
Yes.
And then what happens? How was that for you, first of all, just for Jake to go back? How was that for you emotionally at the time? You'd have been, what, about 22, something like that?
I was around 24, 25. Yeah. No, I felt lonelier than ever without him there. Yeah, I felt really lonely. There was a huge culture shock for me, and I felt deeply insecure. And I really lacked a lot of confidence. I found it so difficult to get into the workplace and, just connect with people. I just felt so different.
It is a very big contrast. I know when I came from India to here, and I didn't have half the challenges that you've had, Wendy, but coming from a place like India to Australia and Fiji, similar, there's people teeming everywhere. And when you come over here, it's like as if, where are the people kind of thing,
Yeah. I remember my son once saying when he came for a holiday, just sitting out on the porch and looking out onto the street, and he said, where's the loiterers?
Yeah, we like everybody's
I know, it was
family
like
kind
entertainment
of thing.
back home
exactly.
to go and sit on the porch and watch what's happening in the evenings.
That's what we did. Every evening you'd sit in the front. My grandmother would sit with 3 chairs and with a big table and a cup of tea, and people would walk past. And if they, felt like coming in, they got 10 minutes, they would stop by for 10 minutes, have a chat, and then go on their way. And then somebody else would come. And that's how people connected in India. We sat out the front of our yards with a pot of tea, and people walked in and walked out kind of thing. And that was, that's actually...
That was our TV.
Yeah, but it's the most beautiful way of connecting with local people. Just put a couple of chairs out in your yard and sit down with a cup of tea, and somebody passes by and say, hey, want to join me for a chat or whatever?
Yeah, I wish I'd done that when I
Yes.
moved to Australia. I should have maybe instigated the...
I do that now in my front little pocket park. That's why I've got those 2 chairs.
Oh, I love it. Yeah,
Because
that's
then
a
people,
great idea.
it's welcoming. You don't
Yes,
have a
it
fence,
is.
but people can just walk in and sit down. You're not taking
have
them
a
into your
chat.
home,
Yeah.
but they're in your front yard. So there's still that privacy that you can maintain.
Yes. Yeah, I love that.
So anyway, so Jake goes back to Fiji, and you are now in Melbourne
Yes.
with your new Australian partner.
Yeah, and then that
And then
that
what happens?
relationship ended up breaking down, and we went.
And you
our
said you had
separate
like 3
ways.
years. It was a 3-year thing.
Yeah. Through my 20s, I had about three-year relationships. I was just jumping from one to another, searching for God knows what. I didn't even know what I was searching for then, but I was searching for something.
I think, for many of us, it's a lifelong quest.
Quest. Yes. Yeah.
Searching for
certainly
love.
has
That's
been.
we are love, and you're just trying to mirror that,
Yeah.
with somebody else who, one of the most beautiful things that two people can find between each other, and yet also the most challenging,
And evasive.
And our childhood has so much to play with that, so much to
It does.
determines
I realized later on that I definitely had daddy issues.
of course.
Yeah, I always went for older men, and a lot of the times just searching for the same qualities that my father had.
Isn't that funny? Because that's familiar.
Yeah, that's right.
That's all you know. And
it felt more familiar to be with somebody who was, drunk and at times abusive.
and dysfunctional.
Yeah.
So you come to Sydney, and I know your Sydney life. Tell us about that. You liked that. You enjoyed that.
So I moved to Sydney I was working for huge international tech company, and they offered me a job in Sydney, and I was footloose and fancy free in Melbourne, so I could just up and go, and I went for it. And when I got there, I found that I had a group of people there.
How did you meet these people? As soon as you got there.
The main lady, friend of mine, was Bronwyn. I had met her in Fiji, and she's a little pocket rocket, and she was older than me, but she had connections, to many of the young Fiji people in Sydney, and she just introduced me to everyone. And she was somebody that I just trusted immediately when I met her. She had a real warmth about her, and to this day, she's a very dear friend. We speak, several times a week.
Wow.
That's
so good.
Yeah, she was just so wonderful. It was great to have her there. And I used to work out and live out in Homebush, but she lived in Surrey Hills, but she always insisted that I come on Friday afternoon after work and stay the whole weekend. So I had my own little mattress that I used to bring out and sleep on in her lounge room, and it was just fun times. There was a beautiful group of people around her, varying in ages. There were a few that were older than me, and even though I used to be their gopher, like go for this, go for that, go fetch us a drink, go and it was like my initiation.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I loved them dearly, and I really looked up to them.
Probably a sense of connection and belonging after all those years of
absolutely
kind of dysfunction.
Sydney was so fast and amazing and full of fun, and party, lots of alcohol and drugs. And although that was going to become my undoing, it was a time of my life where I felt so connected to a group of people. I had a tribe. I had a tribe, and we moved in a pack, and wherever we went, we'd attract attention for all the right reasons, because we just lit each other up and had so much fun. And it was fantastic.
So even though there was lots of alcohol and drugs involved,
yes,
what the biggest drug, I think, is connection, like authentic connection with another human being. That's the biggest drug. You have that.
It felt incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And because
really.
they were that was the big drug that kept you there, and they
Yeah.
did what they did, and you were young, you kind of did what they did, kind of
Yes.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah. At that time, I met an old friend that I'd known like in my teen years in Fiji, and Kathleen, she was the glue that really held a lot of us together. She was just an incredible woman.
You still maintain contact with a few of these people, yeah?
Yes, yes,
So
absolutely.
That's
I do.
testament to the
I'm still
strength
very
of connection.
close to them. Unfortunately, I lost Kathleen. We lost Kathleen 3 years ago.
Right.
So that was it was just so shattering for all of us.
Is this the older lady that?
No, she isn't. She's my age. Well, she was actually a year younger than me. Yeah.
Goodness.
Yeah. I lost her to cancer.
And then from there, you said at some point you realized, even though this was like a little love bubble for you in Sydney.
Yeah.
You decided to go to Fiji.
Yeah,
What happened?
it all came to a head because, over doing drugs over a period of time, you start losing the essence of who you are, unfortunately. And I just felt out of my depth. I was becoming somebody I really didn't want to be. I was lying and being disloyal, and it felt a bit yuck. And I remember distinctively chatting to my mum on the phone one day, and I think of course I wouldn't dare tell her that I was doing all these things, but she sensed the desperation in my voice, and she said, "Oh, come to Fiji, come for a holiday." She just made it sound so enticing. And so I went for a holiday, and I ended up staying 6 months, and it was enough for me to, dry out and
What a saving grace that would have
realize it really was. Yeah, it really was.
And during the time when you were in Sydney, Wendy, were you in contact with Jake, your son?
That's where a lot of my guilt and shame comes in, because the more I went into that lifestyle, the harder I became irresponsible. Then I would not call. Then it became too hard to call. Then I was too scared to call and, face questions. And then there was some real distance created there. Like it just,
I'm so
so
sorry.
there were long periods of time where I didn't call him, and he was waiting for my calls, and he was wondering where I was. Yeah, it was something I'm deeply ashamed of. And I've carried that guilt ever since. I've done a lot of work on it. I've spoken to him at length about it, and he has assured me that he has forgiven me, but I don't think it will ever go away, because I see how it impacted his life. Yeah.
Goodness. Thank you for sharing that. That was very, very, very brave of you, Wendy.
I just hope that, I don't know, I hope that if, there's anyone out there that might be in the same position that hears this story, that perhaps they can, just close that gap when it comes to their children. And, especially when their children are young, they really need that contact. Yeah. Just try your best. Try your best to be there for them, even if it's a voice on the other end of the phone.
So you take a moment there. You've gone back to Fiji, and you've spent 6 months with Mum.
Yeah.
And you got yourself cleaned up.
Yeah.
And then what happened?
And then she said she'd spoken to my aunt in Brisbane, and she said, "You're moving up to Brisbane." And so, then I moved here, and my aunt helped me out, and we went to Sydney and collected my stuff.
You had an aunt in Brisbane?
Yeah.
Right.
And I'll always be grateful for her for doing that for me. And
is she still in Brisbane?
no, she lives
she's
in the
moved.
States now. Yeah. Yeah.
So you come to Brisbane, and now you are how old?
I come
31.
to Brisbane, and I'm
Yeah, I
about
remember you
31
saying
years
that.
old. And my aunt introduces, it's really strange because this aunt of mine introduced me to the father of my first child. So now she introduces me to the father of my second child.
Right.
Yes. And he is like extremely, very, very similar to my dad. Yeah. He's an alcoholic, but a very charismatic man. And I just fall in love with that aspect of him. He's very funny, and of course, the drinking and all of that doesn't bother me at all because it feels familiar. I know this space, Yeah. But then, of course, that in itself becomes dysfunctional.
Yes.
So then I got pregnant with Ella, and around the time Ella was 2 to 3 years old, I'd been out of work because, I was pregnant with Ella. I did work for a project management company, and then I went on maternity leave, and then I was out of work when Ella was little. And I needed something to do. I just felt I felt quite disconnected from the world because my world was just about, staying
You and
home with
Ella.
Ella, taking her to
Where
daycare,
in Brisbane
all
were
of
you?
that. We lived in Manly.
Right.
And so this opportunity came up where I could run my own business out of a football club.
What was the business?
It was running their bistro.
Right.
Yeah, so as a caterer. Yeah, so I took that on. Now that involved me being there 6 days a week, and I had a little 3-year-old, and so I was away from her a lot of the time, and that's where I as a mother, I failed again. In these very important formative years, I was off chasing, my own dream. And I honestly, no one had told me at the time that this is a very important time of a child's life. I didn't know that.
Well, you were not made to feel very important in your childhood, Wendy. So it's not it's just a repetition of what happened for you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's what happens. Unfortunately, our childhoods are so important. If you have a secure childhood, you know what it is to feel secure. You know that's what you got to provide for your
that
child.
We're aiming
at least,
for, right?
At least,
Yeah, I never saw it that
as
way.
far as I understand it.
Yeah, I never
So,
saw it that way.
Yes, you're so brave to share all
So
of
she was left alone, with her dad, and there were nights where he would just put her to bed upstairs and then go down, tell her to go to bed and go downstairs to his space where he did his meditation and everything, and just completely. So she tells me recently, she said she remembers always waking up and nobody being there.
Oh no.
My God. Yeah, that just.
Yeah. It's how are you feeling right now? Sharing yourself.
Cringy.
Okay.
Yeah. And sad and remorseful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you said that your son came and visited you randomly out of nowhere after many, many years.
After many, many years, he kept saying that he wanted to come back, but I was never ready. I was never ready to integrate him back into my life because I had something on. I was too busy. I'd also heard that, he had behavioral issues. I didn't know how to deal with it. So I was running away from it a little bit, I feel. And then one day I'm sitting at home and he just turns up. He'd turned 18. He had sorted out his own paperwork around his visa and just appeared in my life. Like, I'm here.
Meet his mom.
And it was just the most confronting thing because, I gave him a big hug, but I was petrified. I was petrified because I hadn't reconciled the past yet. So I didn't know what to do with him. It just kind of all hit me like, you haven't done your work on this. What? And he is an 18-year-old man that is looking to you for answers and you don't have any. And how are you going to guide him forward?
And what did you do?
I could see the disrespect in his eyes. It was so confronting and I had no idea what to do.
So what did you do?
Well, of course, what could I do? I just took him in and, encouraged him to look for a job, but I could feel that there was some kind of a wall between us.
Yes.
Yeah, I could feel that. It wasn't an easy situation to live in.
And since, it's a few years now, but you're now talking to him, he's more in your life. There's been quite a long bad patch, I know, from what you told me, but
huge bad patch.
He's trying to get himself on track.
He'd definitely became a very troubled young man, very, very troubled. I was worried at one stage if he'd ever be able to fall in love. It felt like he hated women, and I felt that was my fault. But he has proven since that that's not the case. But yeah, he led a really troubled lifestyle, and and I could definitely see how. It was strange because in 2017, I got diagnosed for the first time with breast cancer, and I went to see a kinesiologist, and she said to me, well, it's on the right-hand side of your body, so it's like a male-related emotional trauma.
Is that what they told you? That's
yes.
Unusual because normally they don't use a metaphysical kind of cause, they generally go very clinical.
So
That's
in
amazing.
that, I had to write down, 2 or 3 males in my life where I think that trauma had stemmed from, and one of them was my father.
Of course, yeah.
But Jake was the first one that came to mind, and when I say that it was trauma, it's because I felt it was the trauma that I caused him and the guilt that I'd carried around that, and he Anyway, so he it was really funny, because not funny, but I made the connection then. I could see that, the intergenerational traits that you get from parents, and I could see how Dad had passed this down to me, and then now I was passing it down to my son. This whole thing around neglect, around selfishness, around putting our own needs first, and I had just done it in just. Even though I know how much it affected me, I did the same thing to somebody else, and
it's a really hard one to know. To first of all, to have the awareness, and you've certainly got that now and at the time, and then to have the tools and the strength and the courage to interrupt that pattern so that it doesn't go further again.
Yes.
And I think from what you've said to me, Wendy, you're doing a lot of work now with Joe Dispenza, and you're doing a lot of his work, and you're always on this search to, make good your life.
That's right.
And forgive yourself and all of that. So I feel so proud and such a privilege to know you. I just want you to know that.
Thank you. Thank
You're
you so
a
much.
beautiful woman.
Thank you. One thing I do realize is that really we all make mistakes. We all make mistakes. Some of them are really big, but it's how you come back from it, and it's how you make good. Sometimes you may not be able to make good. The people that you need to make good with have either moved away or passed away, or it's just too big a problem. But I think we have to try, and in trying, that's where our growth comes, and that's
Beautiful.
where we give that person who we have hurt a chance to heal. I think.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. We'll never ever get it right. We're all doing life for the first time.
That's right.
We didn't have a dress rehearsal.
Yeah,
before we came
exactly.
here.
This is the first time I'm 50.
If you had a magic wand, what would you change about your life? Is there anything you would change?
Oh, absolutely.
Let's pick one.
First of all, the way that my relationship with Jake, I definitely would do that very differently, and I'd take away all the hurt. I'd take away all the pain. That's what I would do with a magic wand.
Relationships, I think, are the biggest, most important aspect of our lives, and if you've got that right, your life kind of just you actually don't need money if you've got a series of lots of good, strong relationships around you.
I believe
you can
that
survive on a
firmly.
shoestring budget. Yeah.
I believe that firmly because now in my life, I'm just so lucky to have so many wonderful people around me, many, many strong women. I really value my friendships with women, and they have pulled me through this. Yeah.
Do you want to acknowledge some of them? A quick acknowledgement, or
oh my gosh, so many. Well, my friend Kathleen comes to mind. I miss her dearly. My dear friend Bronwyn, my grandmother, my mum has been supportive in her own way. We don't see eye to eye, but she's always had an instinct around the times that I needed support, and she's been there for me. My beautiful sister, who has just been an unwavering support. We've spoken about this before, where my siblings and I have a great relationship in that we go into deep discussions, and we can get quite philosophical about our life as children and how it has impacted us. And we talk a lot about they're deeply spiritual, whereas my spiritual journey, I feel, has only just begun. They've always, I've always questioned, like, how do you have that connection with God? What do you feel like? Why is he a he? Why is he a father? Isn't he both? All these kind of things. I'm always challenging them on their spiritual beliefs. But I tell you what, when I am in deep, like, with regards to the cancer, with regards to my children, and I'm in tears and I'm on the floor, oh gosh, I just relish in their prayers. I love it.
Isn't that a funny? That's
so
a real
much
irony.
comfort when they call me and they say they're praying for me. Boy, do I just thank God. Then
It's a funny thing. I remember I stopped going to church when I was about 14, and for most of my married life, which was quite dysfunctional in itself.
Yeah.
I stopped going to church when I came here to Australia.
Yeah.
Well, when I was 14, but never continued. Even when I was away from my parents, it was easy because if you're with your parents, you have to go regularly every Sunday. But I remember at times when I was most confronted, challenged, whatever, I would just say, please help me. who are you asking for help?
Yeah.
Something out there.
Something.
Suddenly you believe in that. And that, I suppose we're always living in that hope that there is something bigger. And I think there is I personally believe there's something bigger out there that kind of orchestrates how the entire universe works in such perfection. How do you fathom just you look at the human body and you think, where did this come from?
Of God. How do you even fathom that?
I don't believe there's some person sitting over there with a big long grey beard, but there's some intelligence that's orchestrating everything,
It's very arrogant, I think, of humans to think of God as a human form.
Yes, I like that. Yes.
It's way more than that.
I know we're running out of time, so I'm going to ask you one last question, and that is, and you're off on an adventure back to Fiji next week.
Back to Fiji.
You've sold packed up your home, and you've gotten rid of all your belongings.
Gotten rid of everything except for 12 or 13 boxes.
And what do you plan to do in Fiji?
So I work in Fiji sporadically, and so I'm going to be doing more of that.
And what do you do? What work do you do?
So I'm a chef on a private island, and so I'll be doing more of that, but I'll be also freelancing. I want to start up a little supper club, which I'm really excited about, and get local and young local people involved, like students from the School of Hotel and Catering. I hope I'm able to do that and pull them in and teach them international cuisines, how people around the world sit and eat and gather, not only use their services, but bring them into the fold and bring them into the dinner parties, come and have a seat at the table kind of thing. And
that is beautiful. That
right
really
now,
is. I think you're combining your skill of cooking. You're an amazing cook. I know that because you've cooked for me. But bringing people together around the table is one of the most beautiful things we can do for each other, because they say where one, what did Jesus said? He said, where one or more are gathered in my name, there am I. In other words, where there are people gathered together eating, there is love. I think love is God and God is love, kind of thing.
That's right.
So that is just beautiful. I want to wish you all the best, Wendy, for your new adventure in Fiji. And when you're coming back to Brisbane, we have to catch up.
We will.
We
will.
And thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for your deep sharing, vulnerable, very authentic, raw. And I'm sure many, many people out there are going to be really moved and inspired by your courage of what you've done with your life and just the way you are today. And I just wanted to say, when you were acknowledging all those beautiful women, how important it is to have a sisterhood of friends and girlfriends around you. I learned that very late in life.
Yeah.
But it's so, so important.
It's so important.
And that's probably carried you through your life.
It's really important to pull each other up in life.
Yes.
Yes. and we understand each other first and foremost. As women, we understand all the trials and tribulations we have to go through. So it's so important to tell them as well how wonderful that they are. Never forget to compliment your sisterhood.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think I did a Women's International Day speech this time, and the theme is accelerate action. And I said there'll be, there's always great policies for equal opportunities for women, but it's only the empowered women that would generally take those up. What about the disempowered ones? How do we raise those? And I think what's going to, tick that over is a grassroots movement where women support women, women complement women, women raise. So if every one of us, every single day, had to acknowledge one woman in a small way, you'd let that woman walk away feeling just that little bit better.
It's so important.
Yeah, and when women are empowered, we can move mountains.
Yeah.
So thank you so much. It's been a joy to share this morning, early morning with you, and for your generous sharing.
Thank you for having me, and it's always a pleasure talking to you.
Thanks, Wendy.
Yeah.